How many great ideas have died before even being born? How many incredible dreams have been lost simply because they were exposed to the world too soon? Success is not an entity that thrives on shouting or spotlights. In this video, we will talk about the power of silence, how it can deeply impact your life and your relationship with those around you. Join me on this journey to expand your knowledge and develop your full potential for a life filled with happiness and achievements. The truth is that success loves silence, not because it's something secretive or inaccessible, but because it needs time, space, and dedication to germinate. Think of a seed. It doesn't make noise while preparing to break through the soil. It doesn't demand attention, validation, or applause. It simply does what needs to be done, consistently and quietly, until the day it blooms and impresses everyone. However, many of us have the tendency to expose our dreams and plans before even taking the first step. It's as if announcing to the world what we intend to do is a necessity, an almost uncontrollable impulse driven by the need for recognition or validation. But does this need help or harm our goals? By sharing our dreams, we are often draining the energy that should be used to act. Every word spoken, every idea exposed, takes a bit of the motivation and strength necessary to turn plans into reality. This creates an interesting paradox. The more we talk about what we want to achieve, the less we accomplish. The explanation lies in the psychology of human behavior. When you share your plans, you receive words of encouragement, smiles, and even applause. This is comforting and good for the ego. However, this approval creates an illusion of progress, as if simply announcing your intentions is already a step forward. But in practice, nothing has been done. The mind, deceived by the feeling of premature achievement, relaxes. The urgency to act decreases, and focus dissipates. How many times have you witnessed someone repeatedly talk about a big goal, but never move forward? This is a common trap that prevents many from making progress. An idea exposed too soon can be suffocated by criticism, doubts, and even envy from those who hear it. Even the most innocent comments, such as, "Is this a good idea?" or "This seems risky," have the power to plant seeds of uncertainty. And once doubt takes root, it can grow rapidly, suffocating the confidence needed to act. It's important to understand that dreams in their early stages are fragile. They need to be protected, cultivated in silence, away from others' gazes and judgments. Think of a gardener tending to their plants. He knows that before displaying them, he must protect them from the cold, water them carefully, and ensure the roots are strong enough to withstand the wind. Similarly, your goals need to be nurtured in a safe environment where they can grow without external interference. Furthermore, there is a strategic aspect to keeping your plans to yourself. When you work in silence without drawing attention, you avoid distractions and keep your full focus on what really matters. Execution. The element of surprise is a powerful tool. When you finally reveal your results, the impact is much greater than if you had talked about them from the start. Imagine spending months or even years working on a project without making a fuss. Then suddenly you present something extraordinary to the world. The effect is overwhelming. Your accomplishment speaks for itself, and the respect you gain is far more genuine. This strategy doesn't mean you should never share your plans. The secret lies in choosing the right moment and the right people for it. Mentors, trustworthy partners, or close friends who truly wish for your success can be valuable allies. But even with them, it's important to share only what's necessary. Too many details can open the door for unnecessary criticism or negative influences. There's also another point to consider: mental energy. When you keep your plans to yourself, you concentrate all your energy on what really matters. In contrast, talking too much disperses your strength, leaving you more vulnerable to emotional and external fluctuations. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water while it's full of holes. The energy that should be used to build something solid gets lost along the way. This philosophy of silent action can be seen in success stories throughout time. Think of people who have achieved great feats without ever needing external validation. A farmer in the countryside who turns his small farm into a thriving business without ever announcing his intentions surprises everyone with his abundant harvest. Or an entrepreneur who, instead of talking about their plans, dedicates themselves to learning, testing, and building until their business becomes a success story. These examples show that true power lies in acting, not in talking. On the other hand, there are also examples of those who talk too much. These are people full of brilliant ideas who spend more time announcing their intentions than actually putting them into practice. Over time, people around them begin to doubt, and even they lose confidence in themselves. This happens because the more you talk, the more pressure you create for yourself. And if actions don't follow the words, credibility dissolves. It's important to emphasize that keeping silent does not mean acting in complete secrecy. It means prioritizing action over seeking recognition. It serves as a reminder that your dreams deserve protection and that your actions are the best way to validate your intentions. After all, at the end of the day, what really matters is not what you say you will do, but what you actually do. The world is full of noise. Opinions, criticism, distractions, and unsolicited advice are abundant. When you share your dreams indiscriminately, you're inviting these noises into your life. And once they get in, it's hard to maintain focus. Protecting your goals from external noise is an act of self-care. It's like building a fortress around what is most precious to you. Ultimately, success isn't about what you promise, but about what you deliver. Your actions, when carried out with consistency and dedication, will speak for themselves. And when the right moment comes, you will not only have achieved your goals, but also earned the respect and admiration of everyone around you. The world is filled with conflicting opinions and unsolicited suggestions. At every moment, we are bombarded with others' views on what we should or shouldn't do. These noises can lead us astray from our original vision, making us distracted and uncertain. This constant interference has the power to take us off track, causing us to lose focus and feel lost. The key to avoiding this winding path is discretion. Discretion is a powerful weapon because, when you keep your plans to yourself, you protect what is most precious, your focus. When you choose to be discreet, you create a quiet space where your ideas can grow and develop freely, without constant interference from others. It's like building a greenhouse for your dreams, a place where they can bloom in the ideal conditions, away from opposing winds and external influences. When you do this, your ideas have the time and space to grow strong enough to face the challenges ahead. For this to happen, it is essential to start building momentum. Momentum is something precious and often hard to achieve. It is the continuous movement you create when you take consistent and intentional actions toward your goals. Momentum is more than just making things happen. It's about cultivating a positive energy that propels you forward, even in difficult moments. And the big truth is that momentum thrives in silence. When you're focused on doing the work instead of talking about it, you begin to establish a routine, a steady rhythm. Each small step you take strengthens the next, and before you know it, you will have taken a giant leap toward your goal. But what happens when you start talking too much about your plans? You interrupt that rhythm. Instead of continuing to do, you find yourself explaining and justifying, explaining what you're about to do. And the most dangerous part, what you still haven't done. And every moment spent explaining your plans is a moment lost that could have been invested in the work itself. It's like trying to drive a car, but stopping at every corner to show others where you're going. You lose speed, lose direction, and more importantly, lose the purpose that comes from being in motion. Constantly stopping to explain what you're doing can make you lose sight of your goal, bringing you further and further away from achievement. Let me share a story with you to illustrate the power of momentum and discretion. A friend of mine always dreamed of writing a book. He knew it was something he wanted to do for years, but instead of going around announcing his intention to the world, he chose to work in silence. He set a simple goal for himself, to write 500 words a day, every day, until the book was finished. He didn't tell anyone about his plans, didn't share it with his closest friends, nor did he care about outside opinions. He simply dedicated himself to the work, one day at a time. Months passed, and when he finally finished, he shared the result with a small circle of trusted people. The reaction was pure admiration, but not just for the quality of the book. What truly impressed everyone was the fact that he had completed the project without seeking attention or validation. When the book was published, it was a success. And not because he made big announcements, but because the work itself was already proof of what he had achieved. Now consider the story of another friend, equally passionate about writing. However, he took a very different path. Instead of getting his hands on the work, he spent months talking about his plans. He called friends, shared drafts, asked for opinions on every little part of the story, questioned whether he should change this or that. With each conversation, more and more energy was spent justifying what he wanted to do. The result? The project was never finished. He got stuck in the planning phase, in the maybe I'll do this or that phase, never truly moving toward execution. What did he lack? Momentum. He got stuck in analysis, in possibilities, and never took the first consistent step needed to fulfill his dream. What can we learn from these two stories? Action builds confidence, while talking too much builds hesitation. When you act consistently, even if it's just a small step at a time, you begin to build proof that you're capable. You create a record of achievements, a sense of accomplishment that fuels your progress. But when you talk too much, you get lost in the possibilities, the what could be, the what might happen, but never seeing that turn into reality. Many people fear that by keeping their plans secret, they seem secretive or distant. But the reality is that discretion has nothing to do with hiding what we're doing. It's about preserving our focus. Your dreams are precious, and not everyone around you deserves a front row seat to your show. When you're planting a garden, you don't invite the whole neighborhood to step on the soil before the seeds sprout. You protect the soil, water it carefully, and wait until the first plants appear. Only then do you open the garden to the world. Similarly, when you keep your plans private, you're not being secretive or evasive. You're simply creating the necessary space for your projects to develop at their own pace and under the best conditions. Keeping your plans private doesn't mean you should reject help or support. There are people in your life who are essential to your success, but it's important to choose wisely who you share your ideas with and when. There are times to open up, and there are times when silence is the best option to preserve the integrity of your goal. Finally, understand that success rarely comes from words. It comes from action. And when you act, your results speak for themselves. When you finally share what you've accomplished, people won't be surprised by the number of conversations you've had about it. They'll be surprised by what you've done, by the hard work, dedication, and consistency. That's what brings true recognition, not the promises made along the way. Now think about all the opportunities you gain by keeping your vision clear and your focus intact. Think about the impact of every step, no matter how small, that you take toward your goal. By maintaining discretion and focusing on working rather than talking, you ensure your energy is channeled effectively. You don't waste time explaining your intentions, but rather making them a reality. And when the right moment comes, when your project is strong enough, the world will see what you've been able to accomplish. When that happens, you'll know that it was your action, not your words, that made the difference. The power of discretion on the path to success. We all have dreams and goals, but there is a crucial point that many of us overlook: the power of keeping those plans in silence until they are ready to be revealed to the world. When we talk about our plans before they are solidified, we risk interrupting the natural flow of work that is necessary to achieve success. But what many don't know is that there is a powerful energy in keeping these projects silent, especially in the early stages. And this energy is called discretion. First and foremost, it's essential to understand that keeping our plans private is not about being secretive or distant from people. It's not about hiding your dreams, but rather about protecting them. It's like a young plant that needs to be nurtured in a controlled environment before being exposed to the elements of the world. When you keep your plans in silence, you are giving yourself the space needed to grow, learn, and adapt without the pressure of external expectations. Have you ever stopped to think how conflicting opinions, unsolicited suggestions, and even criticisms can steer you off your path? All this external noise can leave your mind fragmented, uncertain, and ultimately paralyzed. What happens when you overshare about your plans is that others start giving their opinions on what you're doing or what you're planning to do. Some of these opinions are constructive, others more critical, but regardless, they have the power to steer you away from your original vision. Often, what starts as a clear idea becomes muddled because of all the conflicting viewpoints you hear. This creates confusion and can even undermine your confidence. The true strength of discretion is that it creates a space of quiet for your ideas to grow. Just like a garden needs time for the seeds to germinate before becoming strong, invisible plants, your dreams and projects also need fertile ground where they can develop without external pressures. When you keep your focus firm, without being swayed by others' opinions, you are creating the ideal environment for growth. Another crucial aspect of discretion is related to the concept of momentum. Momentum is the momentum you gain when you are constantly moving toward your goals, taking small but consistent actions. And there's something very important you need to understand. Momentum thrives in silence. This happens because by focusing on doing the work rather than talking about it, you create your own rhythm. Each step taken is a preparation for the next, creating a spiral of continuous action. When you start talking too much about your plans, you interrupt this flow. What once was a sequence of aligned actions becomes a game of justifications and explanations. It's like you're driving a car at high speed and every kilometer, you stop to show others where you're headed. The time spent explaining to others what you're doing takes away your speed and also your sense of purpose. The energy you would spend on more action, you're spending on words. The problem isn't that people will judge you. The problem is that by focusing more on words, you decrease the energy needed for concrete deeds that will bring real results. This is the paradox of the premature promotion fallacy. The more you talk, the less you do. Now, I want to share two stories to illustrate the power of acting in silence, without announcing your intentions to everyone. One of these stories is about a friend who always dreamed of writing a book. Instead of telling the world about his idea, he set a personal goal: write 500 words every day without fail. He didn't talk about it with anyone, not even his closest friends. He simply wrote every day. When the book was ready, he shared it with a very small circle of trusted friends and colleagues. And you know what happened? Everyone was impressed not just with the content of the book, but also with his ability to accomplish something without seeking validation or applause. He stayed true to his work, and when the book was finally released, success came because the work spoke for itself, not because he had announced his intentions. Now compare this to another example of a friend who also wanted to write a book, but instead of acting, he spent his time talking about what he wanted to do. He shared updates constantly, discussed the details with everyone around him, and eventually never wrote a single line. What he didn't realize is that by spending so much energy talking about what he would do, he didn't have energy to accomplish it. The lesson here is clear. Action generates confidence, while talking too much leads to hesitation. Many people wonder if keeping their plans private is a way to become isolated or even appear distant. But the truth is, discretion is not about creating a barrier between you and others. Discretion is about protecting your focus and ensuring your actions speak for you, rather than getting lost in words. Imagine your plans are like a newly planted seed. You don't invite everyone to come see the still invisible seed, but you take care of it in silence, watering and protecting it until it has the strength to sprout and grow. This concept of acting in silence is not just a strategy for managing time and energy, but a philosophy of life. When you share your plans with the world, you place yourself under additional pressure. Everyone begins to watch, to wait, and often to judge. At the beginning of any project, you are still testing, learning, and adapting. The process is rarely perfect, and you are prone to failures and mistakes. But if you have to deal with everyone's expectations, it makes the journey even harder. Failures become more painful when you know someone is watching. But when you keep your vision private, you create a safe space to fail, learn, and grow without constant criticism. This space where you can adjust and refine your plan without external interruptions is vital. Discretion is not a strategy to avoid criticism. It is a way to protect the creative process and personal growth that need time to mature without pressures. After all, what really matters when you achieve success? The results. When you accomplish something meaningful, people will notice without you needing to say a word. Your achievement attracts attention on its own. And that is the power of keeping your plans private until you're ready to show your work. So, instead of announcing every step along the way, focus on acting. Speak less and do more. Keep your vision clear and protect your energy. And remember, success is not about impressions, but about the depth of your achievements. If you can learn to do the work in silence without constantly seeking validation, you'll be on the right path to achieving great results and a lasting impact. Imagine that you are starting a new project. It could be launching a business, creating a creative work, developing a personal project, or even pursuing a new goal in your life. Now imagine that you decide not to tell anyone about it. Instead of seeking approval or validation from friends, family, or colleagues, you choose to work quietly without making announcements or sharing your interests. You dedicate yourself to the project calmly, consistently, without the need for external confirmation. The only person who knows what is happening is you. What would you be able to accomplish in this silent environment? How much could you achieve without the weight of external expectations, other people's opinions, or social pressure? And how would your productivity and creativity be if you were fully immersed in your work, without the distractions that typically arise when you share your plans before you're ready? This is the core of what we're discussing today: the freedom to work on your own terms, away from external pressures. It's the power of letting your actions speak louder than your words, and the wisdom of protecting your dreams and goals until they are fully formed. The central idea here is not to be secretive or distant unnecessarily. The point is not to withdraw or hide your interests in a selfish or exclusive way. It's about being intentional and strategic with how you use your energy. You are recognizing that your time and energy are too valuable to be wasted on empty conversations or interactions that don't directly contribute to your personal and professional growth. By choosing to keep your plans in silence, you are creating a safe space for the development of your ideas, where you can nurture them without interruption. Keeping your plans private doesn't mean you're trying to hide something. It actually means you are making a conscious decision not to let anything interfere with your progress. This can be a powerful choice because by saving your ideas at the beginning, you allow yourself to develop more authentic work, free from the influence of external opinions. The first step in creating something great is allowing that idea to mature without external pressure until it's ready to be shared with the world. And when the right time comes and you finally present your work or project, it will have weight and substance that isolated words could never have. The success you achieve will reflect the dedication you put into every step of the process. This success will not be built on empty promises or plans, but rather on a solid, tangible result that speaks for itself. The reason many people fail when they share their interests too early is that they don't have a solid foundation to support those promises. When you share your ideas before taking the first meaningful step, you risk diluting the impact of your work. Talking about what you want to do can, in many cases, be more stimulating for the ego than for actual progress. You start receiving feedback, suggestions, and comments from all sides, which can be helpful in some cases, but it can also create distractions. What often happens is that people end up spending more time justifying what they will do than actually doing the work needed to achieve their goals. And what gets lost along the way is the focus, discipline, and consistency needed to achieve them. Now imagine that, instead of sharing your interests, you focus only on the work without worrying about external validation. Imagine you write your goals down on paper, create a plan, and start working in silence. You make small progress every day, and by doing so, you begin to build something solid. There are no shouts, no attention, just constant action. And when the right time comes, when you finally reveal what you've done, you will have a finished product that speaks for itself. Your work will be enough to attract attention, respect, and admiration. Not because you announced your interest, but because your results speak volumes. Often, when you share your interest before you're ready, you end up putting unnecessary pressure on yourself. People begin to ask when you'll act or why there are no visible results yet. Questions pile up, and instead of focusing on the process, you start explaining what you're doing. This type of pressure can be paralyzing, especially in the early stages of a project, when things are still not well defined. Doubts can arise, fear of failure can grow, and everything starts to feel overwhelming. Now ask yourself, what could you achieve if you simply kept your plans to yourself? What could you accomplish if you had the freedom to work without worrying about others' expectations? By keeping your plans private, you preserve your energy and focus, and most importantly, your freedom. The real key to success is not how much you talk about your desires, but how much you are willing to work to make them happen. However, this doesn't mean you should never ask for feedback or guidance. Feedback is undoubtedly an essential part of the creative process in professional growth. What we're saying here is that feedback has a time and place to be requested. In the early stages, when your idea is still forming, the best thing to do is focus on building something solid. Once your work is more developed, that's when it's the right time to seek people you trust who can offer valuable advice. But until then, silent action is what gets you further. Let's use an example to illustrate this. Imagine you have a friend who always had the idea of writing a book, but instead of acting on this idea, he spent his time talking about it. He told everyone what he wanted to do, shared constant updates on the progress of his project, and discussed the details with anyone who would listen. The problem was that despite all the excitement, he never wrote a single line. What he didn't see was that by spending so much energy talking about what he would do, he had no energy left to actually do it. He had given all his energy to the act of talking, not to acting. He didn't realize that true confidence comes from action, and that talking too much can, in fact, lead to hesitation. So as you move forward, challenge yourself to apply this philosophy. The next time you set a goal, resist the urge to announce it to the world. Instead, write it down, make a plan, and start working. Keep your energy, focus on the work, and let your results speak for themselves. When the time comes, the world will take notice, and it will be because you truly accomplished something. Success doesn't need to shout. It grows quietly and steadily in the moments when no one is watching. So keep your dreams, nurture your focus, and let your actions speak for you. This is the path to true success, and it is a path worth walking. If you found this content useful, please subscribe to the channel to access more timeless and transformative knowledge. Comment below if you've ever found yourself in a situation like the ones described by Jim Rohn, where you experienced failure because you couldn't stay silent at the right